Welcome back, everyone, with Greg Roth, the Ambassador David Eby. This is yours truly, Eric Glazer, for another holiday edition of the Sharp Squares Podcast 2024-25. We are entering into week 17, and from a picks perspective, the playoffs couldn't start sooner. Another over week for us last week. Sharps in aggregate, 31% for the season, 43.3%. Let's get to it. We've got a number of interesting games. We've got some interesting trends that we captured from our friends at the Action Network, and we've got 4 games we're going to highlight for you. So to start us off in the segment we call Gold, Silver, Bronze is everyone's favorite fellow degenerate, the Greg Roth.
Eric, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you and the Ambassador today. Our last show of 2024. Happy New Year to everybody in advance. We're still a few days away. 6 medal games. 6 of them. Now, if you've been listening this season, maybe we wanted to end 2024 with less medal games and save them for 2025, but we keep grinding. We keep grinding and delivering for you unbelievable opportunities.
Hey, Greg, can I speaking of that opportunity, can I say something? If people listening are, I'm not going to say sharp, but are savvy, they will know that our Sharps gold picks, I guess there are gold picks, but based upon the Sharps picks, our gold picks, if you faded them this season, you'd be over 70%. That's hard to do. So just some insights into what's going on this season. Take it for what it's worth.
You know, if the Sharps are 43% for the year, are they sharp?
We're going to have to.
It's unanswerable.
We're going to have a very tough offseason with some hard conversations.
There are 2 gold games. There are 3 silver games, and there is 1 bronze game. 2 gold games. The top rated game. A Saturday afternoon game. A matinee. The pick. It's the Denver Broncos. They're plus 3.5 in Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Chris Raybon, Ross Tucker, Marco D'Angelo, Scott Seidenberg, Mackenzie Rivers, and RJ Bell all picked Denver. Nobody picked the Bengals. The second gold game. The pick. It's the Dallas Cowboys. The recently red-hot Dallas Cowboys. They're plus 9.5. They're in Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. I should note that line in DraftKings in our pool, both of our pools is plus 9.5, but the current line is plus 7. Steve Fezzik, Ross Tucker, and Stuckey all picked Dallas. Nobody picked Philadelphia. 3 silver games. The top-rated silver game, the pick, it's the Carolina Panthers. We have a supportive trend on them coming up in the next segment. Plus 7.5. They're in Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Chris Raybon, Gil Alexander, Ralph Michaels, and the Favorites podcast all picked Carolina. Nobody took Tampa. The Sunday night game is also a silver game. The pick, it's the Atlanta Falcons. They're plus 4.5 in Washington to take on the Commanders. Steve Fezzik, Ross Tucker, the Covers podcast, and the Favorites podcast all picked Atlanta. Gil Alexander likes Washington. The last silver game, it's also the Monday night game. The picks to Detroit Lions, our only favorite that we're taking at these 6 medal games. It's the Detroit Lions. They're minus 3.5 in San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Gil Alexander, the Favorites podcast, David Bierman, and Todd Wishnow all picked Detroit. Nobody likes the 49ers. The bronze game, it's the Saturday night game. We have medal games at almost every segment all weekend, including all the way through Monday night. The picks, the Arizona Cardinals. They're plus 6.5 in Los Angeles to take on the Rams. A divisional matchup. RJ Bell, Marco D'Angelo, and Ross Tucker all picked Arizona. Scott Seidenberg in dissent did take the Rams. So Denver and Dallas are gold. Carolina, Atlanta, and Detroit are silver. Arizona is bronze. So the picks, it's pretty simple. Top 5 rated games, the 5 top metal games: the Broncos plus 3.5, Cowboys plus 9.5, Panthers plus 7.5, Falcons plus 4.5, Lions minus 3.5. And 3, 2, 1 are Denver drops from our top rated game off the board in 3, 2, 1 because the line in that pool is plus 3 versus plus 3.5. Everything else moves up a notch. So the Cowboys are the 3-point game. The Packers are the 2-point game. Falcons are the 1-point game. Same line as our pick 5 pool.
That's, we got, by the way, like I said, some good trends that we captured from the Action Network. We've got 4 games we're going to highlight, but if you're just looking for those picks, you are now all dismissed. All right, all these trends, guys, are from the Action Network. Compliments of Evan H. Abrams on X. You could check him out and follow him at Evan H. Abrams. EB, start us off.
Thanks, Eric. The first trend has to do with NFL favorites. They are 131-44 straight up since week 5. That's 75%. That's the second best winning percentage on the money line for any season from week 5 on since 1990, and the highest since 2005. During that span, favorites are hitting at about a 56% rate ATS, which is also the highest since 2005. And since November 1st, the Panthers are 6-1 against the spread, the best market for any team in the NFL. Carolina was 1-9 against the spread in their previous 10 games entering that stretch.
Our favorite team of 2024-25, sarcasm inserted. The Titans moved to 2-13 against the spread, losing straight up in ATS to the Colts. Tennessee is now tied with the 2007 Ravens for the worst start by any team ATS in the Super Bowl era. Overall, 3 teams have finished 3-13 ATS or worse in a 16-game format: the 2007 Ravens, the 81 Patriots, and the 80 Steelers. Switching gears to Buffalo, New York. I got married in Buffalo, New York. I think I've mentioned that numerous times. I will continue to. Josh Allen is on the streak of all streaks. He has covered the second half spread in 9 straight games. He is 13-2 ATS in the second half this season. That is the best mark for any QB in the NFL by over 2 games. Over the last 20 years, only 2 teams have 2 second half ATS losses or fewer during a full regular season. And that is the 2020 Washington football team, Washington Redskins back then, at 13-2-1 second half ATS, and the 2012 Denver Broncos 14-1-1 second half ATS. Final stat, and a pre-warning to my buddy Greg Roth to come off mute. Cowboys and Eagles in recent history have been dominated that game by the favorites. Over the last decade, the favorite in the series is 15-4 straight up and 7-3 against a number, with the Eagles and 8-1 with the Eagles and 8-1 with the Cowboys. Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to keep on rolling with that. So 15-4 straight up, and ATS, the Eagles are 7-3 when they're favored, and the Cowboys are 8-1 when they're favored ATS.
Since 2021, the Dolphins are 5-19 straight up versus teams above 500, and are 24-10 straight up versus teams below 500 straight up on the season. Wait, that's confused. That was confusing. I confused myself, which is not that difficult.
5-19 straight up versus teams above 500, and 24-10 straight up versus teams below 500.
Even though Tua has had his road struggles, he's won 5 consecutive games straight up on the road versus teams below 500 straight up. The Dolphins, by the way, they're in Cleveland on the road to take on the Browns. The Giants have lost 10 consecutive games straight up. Wow. Including going 1-9 against the spread during that stretch. And they are currently in line for the number 1 overall pick. I don't know. Maybe Shedeur Sanders. Maybe Cam Ward. We'll see. This is the longest losing streak in franchise history. Giants are on the verge of their worst ATS season in franchise history. Giants are the first team since 2017 Browns to lose 10 in a row straight up and be 1-9 ATS or worse during that stretch. Dismal. Over the last decade, teams who have lost 10 straight games are 4-10 against the spread when they have to play at home.
You know,
Giants are at home this week against the Colts.
I was going to eliminate a couple of those bullet points because there's a lot of Giants, but my boy Dave Papadopoulos, who's a big fan of the show, used to be an obnoxious Giants fan. I don't think he is anymore. I think he's toned it down a bit, but I wanted him to hear all those stats because they were so damning.
Good luck versus the Colts, guys. Commanders turned it over 5 times and trailed by 14 plus points last week, and they won. Teams in that spot were 3-201. 3-201 straight up over the last 20 years, covering just 6 of those games. A massive amount of turnovers is never great. Over the last decade, teams off a game where they turn it over 5 plus times are 26-45-3 ATS. Their following game, that bodes well for our medal game pick, the Falcons.
Top rated game in pick 5, Broncos plus 3.5 at the Bengals. Incidentally, there's still a medal game in 3-2-1 at +3 if that's the number you're getting at the time that you were listening to this. Handicapping synopsis. Bo Nix should be able to keep pace with Joe Burrow in this matchup as the Denver rookie thrives against subpar secondaries. Additionally, the Broncos defense frequently runs man-to-man defense schemes that has traditionally troubled Joe. Highlights. Chris Raybot of the Action Network. Nix is 7-0 against below average pass defenses with 13 TDs and 2 INTs, so watch out this week. RJ Bell from the Dream Preview and Ross Tucker from Even Money both believe that Denver is trending in the right direction as they battle for the final wild card spot. And Scott Seidenberg of the Dream Preview points out that Cincinnati is 7-1 straight up versus teams under 500, but 0-7 versus teams with a winning record. Timestamps, Action Network, 32 minutes, 45 seconds. Even Money, 13 minutes, 49 seconds. The Dream Preview, 15 minutes, 8 seconds. Bet on it, 45 minutes, 40 seconds.
All right, now we're going to turn to the Cowboys at the Eagles. The Cowboys is the pick at +9.5 points. And the theme in this one is no Jalen at quarterback hurts the Eagles' chances in this divisional matchup. See what I did there?
Jesus.
Hurts.
My God.
Clever. Nobody else would ever think of that. Handicap synopsis. A shockingly motivated Cowboys team will look to keep their winning ways going as they travel to Philadelphia to play an Eagles team dealing with significant injuries. If star quarterback Jalen Hurts cannot play in the game, which he can't, can a banged up Kenny Pickett help Philadelphia keep pace for the #1 seed? We shall see. Highlights. Ross Tucker from Even Money points out that the Cowboys have been in good form lately, winning 4 of their last 5 games. And Steve Fezzik and Stuckey from the Dream Preview and Action Network, respectively, believe that Kenny Pickett will be a major downgrade at quarterback. He certainly will, as he is battling a rib injury as well. Fezzik has Pickett as a 5-point downgrade. Timestamps, Dream Preview, 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Action Network 25-36, and Even Money 18-27.
Silver game, Panthers the pick +7.5 in Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. The theme, Carolina is playing well and not deserving of the 7.5 point underdog spread. Handicapping synopsis, Bryce Young has the Carolina offense running like a professional NFL team, I hope so, and should be able to keep it within a TD. Highlights, Chris Raybon from the Action Network. Notes, Bryce Young has put up impressive stats since he has returned from his benching. Carolina is 6-1 against the spread. Since that point, the one loss was by 3 to Tampa Bay, and a second loss was to Kansas City by 3. Those were straight up games, though. Ralph Michaels points out that Carolina is 6-0 as a underdog streak. They're on a 6-0 underdog streak, covering by 8.1 points per game. Timestamps, Action Network, 21 minutes, 35 seconds. The Favorites podcast, 30 minutes even. Wager Talk, 40 minutes, 25 seconds.
Fourth and final game we'll cover here in the highlights. Falcons +4.5 at the Commanders. I know it's +4 at the time that we're recording this. It is still our fourth highest game in pick 5, third highest game in 3-1. There's a number of different spots here to support the Falcons and some dissent from Gil Alexander that I'll cover here. First, Steve Fezzik from the Dream Preview. Bad spot for Washington after a signature win versus Philly last week. Washington is set to get the wild card spot. Atlanta could still make the playoffs and may have some extra energy with Penix starting. He thinks the Falcons win this game outright. He has the teams 1.5 points apart in his power ratings, with Washington only getting a small home field advantage. And he also thinks Daniels could be hitting a rookie wall if you look at his stats over the past few weeks. Ross Tucker from Even Money agrees. He's all over the Falcons. He has his power rating only making this game only 3. And he also thinks the Falcons are going to win this game outright after Washington had their, quote, tear the goalposts down moment last week, unquote. Also agreeing with those guys is Simon Hunter from the Favorites. The QB could definitely be the spark that the Falcons needed. In dissent, Gil Alexander from Beating the Book. This is a disrespectful line. Sunday primetime game where Washington can clinch a playoff berth and be thoroughly motivated. This will be a playoff coronation for Washington franchise, and it's now right there at prime time at their fingertips. Michael Penix starting for Atlanta. Not sure we learned anything about him last week. This is going to be a frenzied atmosphere, and Gil thinks the line should be more like 6. If you want to check out all these handicaps and hear from yourself from all these sharps, the Dream Preview is at 51 minutes, 30 seconds. You could catch this game on Even Money at 24 minutes, 14 seconds. The Favorites Pod at 47 minutes, 30 seconds. And if you want to hear Gil's dissent, Beating the Book, 41 minutes, 30 seconds. Want to wish everyone listening a happy new year. A special shout out to all of our producers that work so hard. The Professor, thanks for last week. You did a great job EPing. And just remember, none of us are truly sharp. But this is your Sharp Squares podcast.
Good luck out there. See you in 2025.